Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Alexandro, and Chuck Marty, Stephanie O'Day, and I are so happy to be with you this morning. And we wish all of Connecticut's educators a happy National Teacher Day. In this webinar, we will be focusing primarily on introducing the student summary. It's the newest report in EdSight Secure. The student summary is Connecticut's first secure student-level report that provides information across data domains and across academic years. In this webinar, we will also provide a brief overview of EdSight Secure and the Early Indication Tool, or EIT, Connecticut's early warning system that identifies students who are at risk of missing academic milestones and ultimately facilitates more timely interventions. Chuck, Stephanie, and I are consultants in the Performance Office at the Connecticut State Department of Education. We want to thank all of you for joining us for this webinar. We are in unprecedented times, and we understand that the situation is complicated for all districts as we continue to navigate through the challenges of distance learning and ensure the health and safety of Connecticut students and all the great people who work with them. Offering this webinar at this time is an attempt to ensure that we can continue to come together to share information and foster community. Please know that we welcome your emails and your calls. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there are additional webinars in the coming weeks that may be helpful on other topics. Let us know how we can help you navigate through the school year and anything we can do, especially as it relates to these tools to help your students. So today we're going to start with an overview of EdSight Secure. If you don't have access already, we have a slide explaining how you can gain access. We will get into the EIT, as I mentioned, and then the majority of today's webinar will be spent presenting the student summary, which includes historical student data that we haven't been able to share in the past. And we do have the chat function on, so please, if you have questions as we're going along, please post them there. And if we have time at the end, we'll answer those questions. If not, we will send a follow-up message with answers to all of those questions. So what is EdSight Secure? It's our secure online data portal, and it's for designated district staff. It's a way for those authorized users to access student-level data. Beyond sharing data securely, EdSight Secure is a data analytics and visualization tool. So a lot of charts and data tables, opportunities for you to filter, disaggregate, export, and really engage and explore the data. So we strongly encourage you to use EdSight Secure because it has a wealth of information beyond what's in the EdSight public data portal. So this slide is for those of you who don't have access already. We do have a process that begins with the superintendent designating which individuals in the district will be authorized to access EdSight Secure. Privileges are granted either at the school or the district level. Next, your district security manager will create the account or assign roles depending on what level of access you should have. Then within an hour, you'll be able to log in and access all of this information. If you're not sure who your LEA manager is, the link provided at the bottom of this slide will take you to the PDF containing contact information for all LEA managers. We'll provide a link to the slide deck along with a link to the recording of today's webinar, so you'll have all of this available. Okay, so what is the EIT, or the Early Indication Tool? It's a data analytics and visualization tool. And while all reports in EdSight Secure allow for data analytics and visualization, the EIT goes beyond just taking this data and showing it to you in ways that might be interesting. It really goes beyond the typical EdSight Secure report. In developing the EIT models, we use statistical methods to systematically predict and improve student outcomes. So we are truly trying to take the data that we have, the data that we've been collecting for several years, and share it with you in a way that will allow you to improve student outcomes. What we've done over the last 3 years is we've created an early warning system. And what's different about Connecticut's approach is we're not just focused on a dropout outcome, like many educational early warning systems and many State Department of Education early warning systems, which are often focused on that dropout outcome. What we've decided to do is to look beyond that. And when I say that, this visualization will hopefully give you a better idea of how we're addressing early warning in Connecticut. We're using what we're calling a mile marker approach. So all students from grades 1 through 12 are in the early indication tool. For students in grades 1, 2, and 3, and you can see that milestone 1 on the bottom of the slide there. For those students, the milestone we're looking at is the student's likelihood of reaching ELA proficiency on the Smarter Balanced Assessment by the end of 3rd grade. For students in grades 4, 5, and 6, that's mile marker 2, their milestone is math and ELA proficiency on the 6th grade SBAC. So we're using patterns that we see in past data to determine the likelihood that current students will reach both math and ELA proficiency by the end of 6th grade. Next, we move on to grades 7, 8, and 9, mile marker 3. For those students, we're looking at their likelihood of being on track in 9th grade. So that's indicator 7 in the Next Gen Accountability System, which looks at credit accrual and course performance in 9th grade as an indicator of whether a student is on track to graduate high school in 4 years. Finally, for students in grades 10, 11, and 12, we're looking at college and career readiness. So that's course passing and also milestones related to the SAT. So it's not only exam-based, but we also have course-based outcomes to look at college and career readiness. So these targets that we have for students are actually the dependent or outcome variables in the prediction models that Chuck and I have developed for the early indication tool. So when you go into the early indication tool, you'll see that each student has a support level associated with their record. In this slide, I'll provide some background on how that support level was designated. So that rightmost bar, the shortest column that you see, that represents the students that were designated for high support. I mentioned that we run prediction models. Essentially, what we're doing is we're using patterns in the data to help us identify students who may struggle to reach that next academic milestone. Statewide, the students that have the lowest likelihood of meeting the academic milestone, that 25% of students, they're assigned to the high support group. The next 35% of students fall into the medium support level. And the students who have the highest probability, the 40% of students that have the highest likelihood of reaching the milestone, they're in the low support group. It's really important to know that these probabilities are based on past data. So we have millions and millions of student records in our data warehouse, and we use machine learning to uncover those patterns that have resulted in different performance over the years. It's very important, of course, to note that these predicted outcomes, these support levels, are not deterministic. We are not saying that the student will meet the outcome or will fail to meet the outcome. What we're saying is this: based on what we've seen in the past, students that have had similar test scores, attendance, mobility, behavior, all the variables that go into these models, we're suggesting for those students in the medium and high support groups that the districts and schools take a closer look and consider interventions to really help the students reach the academic milestones that are on the mile markers that I showed earlier. And now I'm pleased to introduce Stephanie O'Day, who along with Chuck Marty will walk you through the details of the student summary.
Thank you so much, Dave. And I also wanted to thank all of the attendees and just echo your sentiments from the beginning of the webinar and say Happy Teachers Day. So the student summary is our newest report in EdSight Secure, and it's very different than the other reports in EdSight Secure. Rather than providing data about a school, district, or specific student group, this report provides a look at all available data for an individual student. The report is cross-domain and includes historical enrollment data, including demographics, attendance and assessment data, as well as indicators regarding school and district moves and discipline. The student summary is also printable and exportable. Again, this report is for authorized district and school level personnel only, meaning that you must have an account in EdSight Secure to view the student summary. We also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that, similar to our other EdSight Secure reports, you will be able to see the student summary for a student in real time. This means that you will be able to view the student summary for a student at 5 a.m. the day after the student is registered to your district or school in PSIS registration. The currently available data are listed on this slide. That first bullet point, demographic. When we talk about demographic data, there are a couple of ways we present this in the student summary. On what we're calling the dashboard of the student summary, you'll see data including a student's grade, age, gender, race, ethnicity, high needs status, special education and English learner status, and those are in blue boxes across the top of the report, which you'll see in a little bit. With the exception of grade and age, the demographic data on the dashboard are actually taken from EIT. This means that those data reflect what was reported in the most recent June PSIS collection. That second bullet on this slide, enrollment, those enrollment data are a little different. They provide data from all available PSIS collections. This means that you will sometimes be able to see more current demographic information when viewing the enrollment data, which are actually in a separate tab in the student summary, than what you're seeing on the dashboard. When viewing the enrollment data in that separate tab, you will see a record for each collection in which the student was reported and all of the associated demographic variables for that collection. So for each collection, you will see what was reported for everything you saw in the area of demographic variables on the dashboard, and also some additional variables, including things like native language, homeless status, military family status, gifted and talented status, and special program status, for example, open choice or homebound. Sorry about that. We're sharing mouse control over here, and I think I just got taken away. You will also be able to see historical attendance data, which are based on the PSIS June collection, as well as achievement and growth data for Smarter Balanced and Connecticut School Day SAT data for students who have taken the SAT. In addition, LostLink's achievement, growth, and mastery data are also included in the student summary. Mobility and disciplinary data are included from EIT. Those data provide totals across the lifetime of a student, meaning that the numbers you see represent total school or district moves, or total in-school or out-of-school suspensions for a student. We do plan to add more data into the student summary, including the Next Generation Science Standards Assessment data, as well as CTAA and CTOS, and detailed special education and discipline data. The special education data will come from CDAC, and you will be able to see a student's primary disability over time, as well as information on student special education hours and percentage of time spent with non-disabled peers. The detailed discipline data will include incident level data, meaning that you will be able to see a list of all disciplinary incidents reported in the ED 166 data collection, including elements such as the dates of incidents, types, locations, as well as the sanctions assigned and the number of days sanctioned and served. Again, in order to access the student summary, you do need to be an authorized user. Once you are an authorized user, you will have a unique username and password, and you can log into EdSight Secure in one of two ways. You can either navigate to the directory manager, which we're calling the portal's application website on this slide. You'll see that on the left, or you can go directly to the EdSight Secure login on the right of this screen. I'd just like to remind people that if you're on a computer where you don't have a favorite saved, or you can't remember the URL for EdSight Secure, you can actually just Google EdSight Secure, and the first link you find on Google will be the login. Once you enter your credentials and sign in, you will hopefully be brought to this next page, which is called the Welcome to EdSight Secure report. I say hopefully because the intent is that your view should default to this report. Unfortunately, we know that sometimes that isn't the case, and I'll discuss that in the next slide. From the Welcome to EdSight Secure report, there are two ways to access the student summary. You can either go through the early indication tool, or you can click right on the student summary link. Those are these two links right here, early indication tool or student summary. If you click on the student summary link, that will bring you to a report we're calling student summary, select a student. As I mentioned, sometimes you don't get brought automatically to that Welcome to EdSight Secure report. You may see the folder icon right here at the top of this slide, which says no reports were found. Don't worry if you see this. Just click Browse for Reports and follow the path here. Select the Welcome to EdSight Secure and click Open. You will then be brought to that Welcome to EdSight Secure report. Again, from this report, there are those two ways to navigate to the student summary. If you choose to navigate to the student summary through the Select a Student report, this is the screen you'll see. It's a simple report that up until recently included only one tab. These are the tabs across the top. Select a student and new to district last 90 days. So now this report includes these two tabs, the second of which I will discuss in the next slide. But first, I want to review all of these boxes and circles on this slide. So the red and light blue boxes at the top of the page are ways that you can filter the tables below in order to find the student that you're interested in viewing. So in the red box right here, you can select from the drop-downs to filter the table below by school, grade, or support level. And in the light blue box are options to search by SACID or last name. Our newest addition, highlighted in the yellow circle, and what we're going to talk about right here also in the yellow circle, allows users to filter by number of days enrolled in the district. You'll also notice right here that the date of district enrollment, district entry date, and the number of days enrolled are now included in the table as well. So our hope is that this will allow you to quickly identify new students to the district. And this is something that has been requested since our launch of EdSight Secure on many of our reports, and we are extremely excited to offer it first in the student summary, and we do look forward to adding it to our other reports in the future. In addition, you'll see in this dark blue box the filter selections you've made if your list has been filtered by a school or a grade or an EIT support level. In cases where you're not seeing the student you were looking for in the tables, you may have selected an incorrect filter, and you can just go back and change that filter selection. Once you make those filter selections or enter search criteria, you'll need to locate the student in a grade tab. These are shown in the purple box in the middle of the page right here. If you don't want to make any filter selections, that's okay too. You'll just have more students listed in your grades tab. There are 4 grades tabs based on the different models of the EIT that Dave spoke about earlier. You can navigate between the grade tabs by using the small arrows to the left or the right, or you can just click on the tab of interest. Once you locate the student, double-click the student record to view their summary. If you've gone through all 4 grade tabs and you can't find the student you're looking for, that either means they're a pre-kindergarten or kindergarten student, or for some other reason they weren't included when the EIT modeling was done. They may be new students, or they may not have been enrolled at the time of the most recent PSIS June collection. For these students, you need to find their record in the Missing Students tab in pink right here. It is important that you only use this tab for students you cannot locate in a grade tab, because when you access the student summary through this tab, you will see only a student's history and not that student summary dashboard that contains all of those overarching demographic and assessment and mobility and discipline metrics all in one place. I also just want to quickly draw your attention to the lower right-hand corner of the slide and the warning icon. You'll see this icon throughout your use of all EdSight Secure reports, but probably more so in the student summary. The icon doesn't indicate that anything is broken or that you've done anything wrong, but you just want to hover over it to see the warning text. You may see warning text that indicates the dataset has exceeded the maximum number of allowable rows for a table. If this happens, you just need to go back up and use a filter to decrease the size of your dataset so that it can render. Alternatively, you may have selected too many filters and the dataset is empty, and that will be reflected in the warning text as well. Again, the solution for that is to just go back through and change your filters in order to view records. You will also see this warning icon in the student summary when no data exists for a student in a specific domain. For example, for a student who has never been an English learner, you will notice that they still have a Lost Links History tab in their student summary, but it consists of only empty tables with warning icons. This just means there are no Lost Links data for you to view for this student. Now I want to quickly show you that second tab in this report, the new to district last 90 days. This tab shows you 4 charts by grade, grades 1 through 3, 4 through 7, 8 through 9, and 10 through 12. And each chart shows you the number of days enrolled in the district in ranges. For example, this says 31 to 60, 61 to 90. You can quickly see how many students in grade 1 through 3 were enrolled in your district between 31 and 60 days ago. You can double click on a bar to see additional data for the students represented by the bar and access their student summary right from there. We have a quick video, time permitting, at the end of the presentation that will more clearly demo the live report, including this new to district tab shown here. And now I'll turn it over to Chuck, who's going to talk to you about accessing the student summary through EIT.
Thanks, Stephanie. And thank you all for joining us this morning, and a very happy Teachers' Day. If you're in the early indication tool, you'll find that it contains data from multiple domains, including attendance, assessment, mobility, discipline, and course performance. But it only contains a limited history for 2 reasons. First, more recent data is more predictive in our models than past data. And second, if you've used the EIT before, you realize it's already a very wide report as it is. So we built a link between it and the student summary, which divides up the present look at a student from the historical look to allow you a deeper dive into the educational experience of every student. So suppose you're in the EIT and you're on one of the data tabs like we see here. This slide shows the grades 1, 2, 3 data tab for a particular district, And you can see, and I'm sorry, you see that you can narrow this list by choosing filters. Suppose you wanted to focus on high support students by choosing high support under the support level filter. And then choose students with less than 85% attendance using the numeric filters in the red box. The resulting table will show the data for those students meeting those criteria. We also color-coded the severity of many of the variables to make them stand out. This table is sortable and exportable. Now choose a student in the table. To get to see a student summary dashboard, as well as the historical view, double-click on that student's row. This next slide emphasizes the point that the student summary is really a group of reports based on the 4 models in the EIT, plus those students missing from the EIT, including students in pre-K, kindergarten, and those who entered the public school system too recently to be included in the EIT modeling. If the student is in the EIT, clicking on their record will open up the associated grade-based report in Student Summary. In short, Student Summary is larger than EIT, has more students and more data across the student's academic career. Next, we'll show you Student Summary dashboards for each of the EIT models. You'll see that as students progress from grade to grade, there's more data to provide. The Model 4 dashboard for a 12th grader is rich with data, less so for the first grader in Model 1. Here's a Model 1 dashboard for students currently in grades 1 to 3. Let's add some color-coded boxes to highlight the features of the dashboard. In the purple box in the middle of the screen, we see current demographics. These are demographics taken from the most recent collection included in the EIT modeling. Think June. The red box, just below it, has EIT milestones and criteria for success. Think mile markers from Dave's slide. At the bottom, we have gauges, and the gauges for this model dashboard show kindergarten entrance inventory, literacy, numeracy, and language scores, and also attendance. All of these are color-coded with hovers showing the actual data. In the blue text box above the gauges, this shows the sum of discipline events and non-traditional school moves and district moves up to that point in the student's academic career. In the upper right-hand corner in the orange box, we see the EIT support level, which was determined based on these data. In the green box in the top left, this is where you'll find the tabs that allow a dive into the historical enrollment, attendance, assessment, and lost links records for the student. Here's the Model 2 dashboard for students currently in grades 4 to 7. Again, the purple box shows current demographics. The red box has EIT milestones for 2 models here, grades 4 to 6 and grade 7. Again, think mile markers from Dave's slides. The gauges provide attendance and smarter balanced assessment scale score data by grade. These are color-coded by performance levels and also have hovers showing the actual data. In the blue text box, discipline events and mobility. The orange box in the upper right, the support level based on these data. And the green box to the left shows a dive into the historical record for the student. Now we move on to the Model 3 dashboard for students currently in grades 8 and 9. Purple box, current demographics. The red box has EIT milestones and criteria for success. And the gauges show attendance and smarter balanced assessment data by grade. The colors indicate performance levels in the gauges. Finally, the Model 4 dashboard for students currently in grades 10 to 12. Notice we've got a lot of data packed into a small space. In the purple box, we got the current demographics. Red box has the EIT milestones and criteria for success. And the blue box now contains the sum of discipline events, school moves, district moves, as well as college and career readiness coursework courses passed. The gauges now show attendance and Smarter Balanced in grade 8, as well as PSAT and SAT scale scores. Since high school students have a wealth of detailed teacher course student data, we show core courses failed by grade from TCS in the gray boxes below. The orange box shows the support level based on these data, and the green box shows tabs that dive into the historical record for the student. And now I'll put you back into the capable hands of Stephanie.
Thank you, Chuck. So Chuck just reviewed what we call the dashboard in the student summary. I used that terminology at the beginning of the webinar as well. And now we will take a look together at the history tabs we talked about. First, I'd like to draw your attention to the upper left of the screen in this blue box. If you ever want to know what report you're in, the report name is always in the upper left. The report name will tell you what version of the student summary you are viewing. Right below the report name, you will see all of the tabs included in the report, and Chuck touched on those as well. He was showing you that student summary tab, which we're calling the dashboard. The additional tabs you see are what we refer to as the history tabs. This tab you're looking at right now is the enrollment history tab that I mentioned earlier. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see we carry through that support level from EIT on all of the tabs. Below that, in the blue boxes, you will see the student's current district and school, as well as their grade and age. The majority of the history tabs include just these few objects and a list table. As I discussed earlier, in the enrollment tab, you will see a record for every collection in which the student was reported. You see that to the left here. And those are PSIS collections, so June 2019, October 2018. Currently, we are just displaying back to the 2014-15 school year, but the potential is there to go back even further. Originally, we limited this because of a concern regarding space on our servers, but I believe that has been resolved. So for every record displayed, you see all of that associated demographic information, as well as the district and school in which the student was reported. So you will see a record for every student, whether or not the student was reported in your district, as long as the student is registered to your school or district in PSIS registration. This table will be helpful in determining special education history for a student, English learner history, as well as history on all of the provided variables. Because this table contains so many variables, it is quite wide. I know Chuck talked about EIT being wide. This enrollment table is wide as well. And you may need to scroll to the right to view all available data. When you hover over the bottom of this table, you'll see a scroll bar come up and you just scroll to the right. This table can be sorted and exported as well. Next, we have the attendance history tab, which is based on the June PSIS collection. This tab again carries over that EIT support level and contains a color-coded list table and chart. The table shows the days of attendance, days of membership, and days absent, as well as the calculated attendance and absence rates. Next, we have the assessment history tab. Again, this tab isn't in the Model 1 version because these data don't exist for those students, but in the other versions, you will see this assessment history tab. It will look slightly different depending on the model. For Models 2 and 3, you will see only Smarter Balanced data, while in Model 4, SAT data will be included. For models 2 through 4, this tab contains achievement and growth data for Smarter Balanced. And again, these tables are sortable and exportable. The next generation science standards assessment data and the alternate assessment data will be added soon. So the layout of this report may change slightly based on the addition of data, but it will be largely the same. For example, we may choose to divide the assessment history into tabs based on subject area, but we will name the tabs accordingly so that users will be able to easily determine any reorganization that has taken place. We are going to move on shortly to that Last Links History tab, but we wanted to discuss English learner data as it pertains to what is shown in the dashboard versus the History tab. At the top of this screen is a snip of the student summary dashboard where the box identifying English learner status is highlighted right here. Now remember, this was the student's English learner status as of the most recent June PSIS collection. If the student was reported as an English learner in this collection, we do encourage you to click on the Last Links History tab to view available data for the student. Please note, however, that a student may have Last Links data in the History tab, even if the dashboard shows that they were a non-English learner in the most recent June PSIS collection. The student may have been previously identified as an English learner and exited after achieving mastery on the Last Links assessment, or the student may have been incorrectly reported in the most recent June collection. Even if a student shows as an English learner in the dashboard, there may not be any Last Links data in the History tab. For example, if the student was newly identified as an English learner, the student may not have been given a Last Links assessment in its entirety yet, or if given in its entirety, the assessment may have been given outside of the testing window, and therefore the results would not have been reported to the state. Another potential reason that a student could show as an English learner in the dashboard but have no data in the History tab is because the assessment may not have been administered due to student absences. While 100% participation in Last Links for English learners is expected, sometimes the assessment is not administered for this reason. There are so many aspects to a student's English learner history that we encourage users to review all available data regarding English learner status in the student summary, including the dashboard, enrollment history tab, and Last Links History tab. So when you view the actual Last Links History tab, you will see 3 tables. One with subtest results, one with growth data, and one with mastery status. In order to help users quickly determine if a student met mastery on the Last Links, a result of meeting mastery will be highlighted in green in this mastery status table. Okay, selecting a different student. When you would like to navigate to a different student and view their summary, please do not use that back button you see in the upper left. Instead, use the close button in the upper right. Using the back button may result in the loss of filters, and you may encounter some unexpected results. So please, if you're training anyone to use this report, or if you're in there yourself, please remember to use that close button. Do not use the back button. When you use the close button, you're simply going to be brought to the previous report that you were viewing. So if you navigated to the student summary from the Select a Student report, that's what you'll see when you hit the close button. If you navigated to the student summary from the Early Indication Tool report, then when you hit the close button, you will be brought back to the Early Indication Tool report. I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about printing because we've been talking about this report being printable. In order to print the report, you will go to the upper right-hand corner and select the 3 vertical dots that you see here. You will then select Print, And that will bring up the print dialog, which is on the right-hand side of the screen here. I recommend that you deselect all of the other options and select only show page numbers. When you select print, the dialog will generate a PDF. In the PDF, you may notice that some content may appear cut off or clipped. Depending on your needs, that may be okay, or you may want to go back and reprint to ensure all content is displayed. If you want to reprint with all content displayed, you will print again, but this time select the option that reads expand, clipped, and non-visible content, which is shown on the screen with the orange arrow. Once the new PDF is generated, you will notice that objects that have been clipped will now appear with an expand icon. If you click on that expand icon, it will bring you to a page or pages at the end of the PDF where the full content is displayed. All right, it looks like we have time to view the live demo. I attempted to record something that would hopefully be helpful for all of you. So hopefully our audio works, and we will go ahead and try this now. It looks like the audio is not being shared. So I'm going to pass it back to Michelle, and I think she can play the video from her end. Michelle, is that okay?
I can try stuff.
If not, we'll figure out what to do. I see movement, but no audio.
Steph,
Yeah,
did it play?
I thought it was playing, but no audio. So
Yeah, this is frustrating. I'm sorry. You want to just, we can post it online and everyone can watch it afterwards.
sure, I can actually go through and try to do it live if you can.
Yeah, let me give you back presenter control.
Okay. Sorry about this to all our attendees. Hopefully we'll get you in here in 1 second. I'm just going to sign in. I think it's really important to show you the live version just so you can get a better idea. We like to have the screenshots for a quick reference, but we really think that it's helpful to see the live version. Okay, everyone can still hear me, I hope. So this is that Welcome to EdSight Secure homepage of the dashboard for EdSight Secure. And again, you'll see those 2 links to get in to the student summary. You can either go through the early indication tool or directly to student summary. Let's click on that student summary. Now these are all de-identified data, de-identified reports, so that's why we're able to see, to show you that here live. Now this version looks slightly different because this is a state level user. I'm logged in as myself. So you'll see that I can actually select a district in the top left. For district or school level users, you'll just see your district name on the top left. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select district N. And then you'll see all of my students pop up in this grade 1 through 3 tab. That's the default tab. You'll see I have their district entry date. So I have one student who was enrolled in the district 8 days ago. I have their SACID, their name, their EIT support level if they've been included in modeling, as well as the grade and the school that they're in. I can use all of those filters I mentioned. I can go up here and filter by school. So if I filter by school D, you'll see just students in school D in my tabs. Again, I can look across the grade level tabs. The filters you select do apply to all of the grade tabs. And then if you couldn't find the student of interest in one of the grade tabs, again, you go to that missing students tab. You can double click directly on one of these records to access the student summary. But before we do that, I'm going to show you that new to district tab and some of these other filters. So I'll clear this filter for school. I just scroll to the top and click clear filter. Again, you have current grade filter and EIT support level filter. So if you want to look at all your high support students, you can click that filter. And again, it filters across all the grade tabs. You notice I'm clicking directly on the tab name, but I also can use these arrows to navigate between these tabs, these tables. And those directions are included right here as well. Also notice that interactive filters, I selected that district N. So I see that here. I can search by SACID, and it's a partial search. So when I start typing, it gives me a list. Or if I say want to look at all the SACIDs beginning with 1, 2, 3, I can hit enter. And it'll give me those SACIDs again across all the tabs. So you see all those SACIDs begin with 1, 2, 3. I can clear that by just deleting and hitting enter. Or I can search by last name. I won't demo that because all our last names here are the same. And then this is our newly enrolled. And I see we have a few questions. So I'll quickly get through this and then we'll go to the questions. This is our filter by days enrolled. Again, that's days enrolled in the district. So you can select multi-select here. I didn't see any students in that first tab 0 to 7, but I know I saw an 8 through 14. So when I click that 8 through 14, this one student pops up in the 4 through 7 tab. We had another student with 8 days that's been enrolled for 8 days in the grade 1 through 3 tab. And then let's just quickly look at this newest to district last 90 days. Here's that one student we saw in grades 1 through 3 who was enrolled between 8 and 14 days ago. I am going to double click on that record. Now that brings up what's called an info window with some detailed EIT indicators for the student. That's the same table that's accessible right in EIT, that color-coded table that Chuck talked about. So you see the student has a high support level, is designated as a high support student, as well as their color-coded indicators here, including attendance, kindergarten inventory, and mobility and discipline. You can double click right from here, and then in the background, your student summary opens for that student. And here you see that dashboard. This is the dashboard we reviewed, Chuck reviewed for us. Kindergarten inventory and attendance. When you hover, you see some additional metrics. And then these are all those history tabs that we reviewed. Because I'm in as a state level user, sometimes it takes a little longer to render. Once it's rendered once, you're usually pretty good to go. And because as a district, you're dealing with a smaller data set, it will be a little quicker as well. So here you're going to see those transitions, the reporting district from L to R. The student remained in R until October 2019, and actually they're in district N now. And you can see their current district, which will be your district and the school. You'll see that special education history. The student looks like they were identified. This might have been the same one I used for the video that you'll have access to after the webinar. Identified sometime in grade 1. If you scroll over, we'll actually see that special program status code. The student was then reported as homebound and is now reported as attending, was then reported as attending 2 facilities in accordance with an IEP. So that's some helpful information. You'll see I'm scrolling because of the width of that table. You've seen this attendance tab. Again, takes a second to render because I'm logged in as a state level user. Hopefully you'll encounter quicker time. And then we have a lost links history tab and a resources tab. So I'm going to stop presenting and I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle for those questions. And thank you again so much for attending. We're super excited to share this with you.
Okie dokie. So I have a question about the site. So someone mentioned that the site loads slowly, whether they're at home or work. Do you have any recommendations for optimal performance?
My first question to that user, I don't know if we're able to unmute participants. My first question would be, what browser are you using? We would recommend Google Chrome, and that should help. I know we also find differences depending on the internet we're connected with. You mentioned, it sounded like you mentioned work or home, so that may not be the issue. If you're in a larger district, similar to what I was saying about being logged in as a state level user, things sometimes take a little longer to render. But what I would actually ask is, I would like to work with you on it. So if you could email, and it's at the end of our PowerPoint presentation, either email
Stephanie, she says she's using Chrome, but it's still very slow. It can take a couple minutes for graphs and data to load.
Okay, so I think we could probably work together with our larger team. So if she can email me, just email me directly and we'll reach out sometime later today. I'll ask our whole EdSight team and we'll see if we can help you with that.
Great. So Susan, if you could give an email to Stephanie, that would be great. Okay, when students withdraw from a district, is their data and student summary no longer accessible?
That's correct. So the student has to be currently registered to your district in order to view their student summary or any of their data in EdSight Secure, except their testing data. So those of you who are users, have been users, you know that you can view the students who tested with you. The student summary, however, won't be accessible for any data. So test data, if a student tested with you and they're no longer with you, you can view those data in those separate assessment reports. But the student summary won't be accessible, nor will EIT.
Okay, there is one. Yes, that was good. I just wanted to remind people we're not going to be calling on you. So if you have your hand raised, can you please write the question that you have in the question box? Okay, so here's another one. Can a K-8 district see the dashboard of a student it is sending to a designated high school?
I just need a clarification. So if the student is enrolled to your district in PSIS registration, you will be able to see them. Once they are no longer reported by you, if they're reported by like the Endowed and Incorporated Academy, Woodstock Academy would become the reporting district in PSIS, and then Woodstock Academy would be able to view that student summary.
Okay, how many years?
John is on the call as well, so he may, we do have some questions about, we have had the question about Facility 2. Facility 2, if you are a Facility 2 in PSIS registration, you cannot view that student as well. Right now, it's just based on reporting district and Facility Code 1 in PSIS registration that allows you to access the student records.
Okay, we've got a couple more that we have enough time for, I think. How many years of lost links data will now be available? Previously, I recall there was a limit on how far back it went. I have not checked recently.
Yes, it does go back, and I believe it goes back, I think till 2015-16. However, Michael Sabatos has some historical files, and he's spoken with us about potentially getting additional lost links history data in there. And by this question and by some of Michael's discussion I've had with Michael, sounds like it would be useful. So we can work on that and getting that additional lost links history data in there if it's helpful. And any of these suggestions or questions, we love hearing them. I just want to reiterate that. Dave said that at the beginning. We really want to help you as much as we can. So feel free to email any of us individually or edsight.sde@ct.gov. That's our main EdSight box. You can email that too. The link to that is on our EdSight homepage and the EdSight Secure homepage. So just reach out with any of them. All of these things, in particular, the ability to filter by new students and identify new students, that was all user generated. That's what made us work so hard to get that. And especially now, knowing that registration has changed and potentially you don't see in person these new students that are being registered to you, it was really important for us to get that out to you to facilitate that quick transfer of records and all of the historical information that we have in data that we're working to enter. And I'll tell you also, just a quick aside, that NGSS Next Gen Science data, those are already added in our development servers. We're going to be getting that into the student summary really soon as well. So please email us and we will do our best to accommodate all the suggestions or enhancements.
Okay, Steph, this is our last question, and I think it's an important one. It's an important point that someone raised, and I think you want to definitely clarify. This is an incredible amount of information on a student. Do parents have the same ability to access this information that has been compiled on their child? Can parents access with a secure login?
So right now, the login for EdSight Secure is limited to district and school level users. We do not have teacher level user access. We do not have parent level access. And that is probably a question that I would also want to run by our Chief Performance Officer and the EdSight team, because I do believe right now we're going to stay limited to the district and school level users. However, as I'm saying this, you know, this is part of a student's educational record, so I do believe that a parent has a right to these data under FERPA. But I'm not the best person to discuss that, so that I think I would like to open up to a larger discussion and potentially have a response outside of this webinar.
Okay, then we're all set here. If you want to just close it up. Stephanie?
Yeah, I can wrap it up. Just echoing what Chuck and Stephanie have said. There's so much to this report, so please, you know, reach out to us, go back and revisit the recording that Stephanie mentioned, because that really will allow you to kind of go through the report at your own speed and pause and really kind of take a look at all of the intricacies of the student summary. And it really does just help you understand that student's story much better, and will hopefully facilitate a conversation in your building and with the family. And because I think that tie-in with the family is very important. So it's not like we're trying to keep this information from a parent. It's just at this point, because it is secure information, at this point it's limited to the users that Stephanie mentioned. But thank you again for visiting with us today, for viewing this webinar, and we hope you will continue to use the report, and we wish you continued health and safety. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.